Hello friends. So this video I'm not going to talk about the Java at all. I'm not starting with any coding, but this is just to give you give your feet wet to get you started with understanding what the JSON is, right? So one of the first thing of the JSON is it will have the file, which is file be into .json format. So that's the extension you'd save the JSON file. JSON is basically when you do any actions into UI, internally it will send the request to the server. When it sends the request to the server, it will send it into the JSON format, and then it will come back to you with the JSON format. And from that JSON format, whatever it comes back from the server, and that data is being prepared for you from the server. Server will then the UI developer will then parse those data into human readable formats. So when you see, let's say you want to book a flight, right, you get some flight informations. Your travel agent is requesting it into some airlines, right? Let's say United Airlines. They will send the response back based on your requirement back to you with whatever is available to you, right? Based on that response, that the data, which is called the JSON format, that's what the UI will then later interprets it into the UI readable, which is what you will see in the browser. So that's the kind of story where we fall into. So if you have to understand that kind of architecture, that's what you have to learn API. And in this world, API testing is one of the very important and very hot job market, right? So to start with the API and talk about the RESTful API, JSON is the key that you would really need to be expert into. If you are very hands-on with the JSON files, then it will be much easier. Your life will be much easier when you're trying to work with API testing. So let's talk about that. My goal is to make you familiar with and then help you further learn the JSON or the API testing. So let's get started. So one of the key aspects of the file would be the .json format. So now for your automation test, you don't have to create any JSON files unless you are really into it, right? You will dynamically be creating this JSON format. You'll be writing bunch of utilities. You will be writing code that will generate the JSON file for you. We will have the libraries to use. We'll talk about that in the next video. Next thing is the JSON is a lightweight. What lightweight means, it is very quick in response. It will give the best performance. It will, whenever you send the request will then interpret and sends over into the text format. Text is much light. It will be stored into key value pair. Key value pair fundamentals, right? And then what's next? It may contain the key value and or it's not or is not mandatory, right? It may contain both key value as well as arrays. So let's explain that. Key value will be considered as a JSON object, and the arrays will consider as a JSON array. So object is just like, because the Java itself is object oriented, even so when you talk about key value, it would just be like the key value, like the hash map, right? Array is just like the array in your Java. Then it is just a JSON array because it's the JSON format files, JSON's architecture, JSON structure, right? And then the key value pair, after that new thing that you would see, then what you've seen in the hash map is that in the JSON format you'll have both key and the value double quotes like this, right? Key, and then let's just write one more thing. There will be the colon in between, right? So there won't be any equal sign anymore in the JSON format. It will be replaced by the colon. So you'll have this double quote for the keys, and the values would be value, whatever value is, and then there will be colon. This colon sign would be replacing for the equals. So next line is the 7 is you may have the data in different formats, different complexity, let's say, right? So when I said complexity, that means you may not only have a key and a value, you may also have an array. Inside the array you may also contain you may also have another JSON object, right? So there may be complex. Within that JSON object you may have another array. So there's no limitations, right? It can be so let's go, we're gonna go with some examples how these complexity means. So here, let's just stop here right now. So what happens is the process, let's say the process, right? When you log into UI, and then UI, you may have some form of some buttons where you would be clicking into, you might be requesting some information through the UI as an end user. Then it will internally sends a request, to the server. Maybe server will then connect into the database to get those informations based on what you are asking for, right? Based on your credentials, and then based on whatever you are requesting, based on that information, it is going to, server will do that entire processing for you, and server will then find the information. Whenever it finds, it will then send back to data to UI, right? So whenever it sends this data into UI, that will be under JSON format. I'm talking about the Restful, okay? So JSON format, which is obviously exactly, we're going to talk about how the JSON format will look like. We're going to go that later. So before that, it will be the JSON format. JSON format will contain the information that you might need. Maybe you are going to only need the certain informations, but this file here which the server sends, server will send whatever information is available into the server, but then the filtering out from that data is the UI developer, right? They will then parse those data into however they want to present to you as an end user, right? So this is how the process works. So understanding the JSON, let's go to the recap first. So first of all, JSON, if you want to create a JSON file, it will be .json format, JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. This is heavily used into, let's add some more point here. RESTful API based applications, right? Next thing is, it is a lightweight. Again, it is simply the text file that contains key and a value. Both are just stored with the double quotes. There will be no equals. It is replaced with a column. Next thing is, the main fundamental is key and value. It may contain key value only or the and or arrays, right? JSON object and arrays. So this key and value is called a JSON object, and then arrays is a JSON array. You may also have a data into different complexity of the JSON, so which means your data of this JSON format may only contain the key and value like I said here, or may contain both, right? Or may contain JSON object inside the array and JSON object having another JSON array, or it could mix up so heavily, or it may be so complex, right? So let's just we're going to start with smaller piece first, and we'll go later deep dive into that. Next thing is the JSON is much popular these days because of its those benefits, as well as the Restful API being very popular, right? So Restful works only with the JSON. So Restful is basically HTTP requests that you send to the server, coming back from the server as a response. This whole process that Restful API works with the help of JSON format. So JSON is now nothing but the file or data type that has different sets of the value, which is a human readable. Okay, that is, I think, all that will explain about the JSON. And then the main process, how the server will work, and whenever you work with any URL, any website, you would see how the information is coming. That's how it is coming. Okay, so let's write some of these JSON format files. Okay, now once we're done with that, so let's start with the writing some JSON format file. So here I'm going to give you some example of how the JSON format is, right? So let's just start with some of the thought process, right? So for example, you are going to create some students database, right? So you are using some library applications or libraries. You are going to rent some books from the library, and then you are going to submit this request, and then you get certain numbers of the books for your rental, right? So when you talk about that, let's say what are the information those library would have, right? So it could have something called, and first thing is that you have to start with the curly braces always. That's the first piece you have to know on the JSON. And then let's say your student ID, and then I said you will have to have this colon sign. Student ID can be numeric, that's fine, and then or you can put the string. It's up to you, however you want to decide your database could be, right? And then next thing is there will be always differentiating that comma after every single different key value. You'll have to have a comma unless it's a final one. So student name, another name would be, let's say JSON, right? JSON, let's say student name JSON, let's say Davis. Let's say student, obviously you want to know the grade, right? Again another column, and grade could be let's say 5 section B, that would be like 5B, right? That would be string. And then let's say after having these certain numbers, right, you have a student ID that is going to contain everything. That library will have all informations. I believe that's all you may need there. You don't need to know all the parents' names there. Now let's say what you did in the book, you requested book, but the server will have it, is you want to request some books called books, right? Books would be into array because you want to have multiple books, right? Array will be like this with the square bracket. Here you can put, there are two types of arrays now. I'm going to show you both. So first, let's say you want to have some book called Charlie's Angel, or another could be, let's say you want to get some guitar learning. Maybe you want to get some right, so and so, right? The last one will not have a comma, otherwise it will be in a problem, you'll be in a problem, right? So last one, there's no comma for last ones. Now this is the one type of a JSON array, right? Let's do some quick validation here. Let's copy the whole thing. There's a site that is called to validate your JSON files. Okay, so I copy pasted that there. Okay, oh, double. Now when I do the validate, if I do the validate button, validate JSON, I can simply copy paste. It will do one format for you too, like all you know, like spacing and all that crap. So once you get that whole thing, it's going to say the valid JSON. That means this is the valid JSON format, right? So let's go back here. I can just paste that here, so it just looks beautiful. So that's a one type of array. Now you might have a different array. Let's say you want to make this more complicated. So not only the book, right? You might have a book ID. So you might want to have multiple of this. You have 3 books, right? So here you want to have more like a JSON object inside the array, which would be like a book name, right? Would be Charlie's Angel, of course, right? And then that comma goes, if you have more here, then obviously you're going to have book ID. Book ID would be D, it starts with C, so 1 2 3, let's say, right? Maybe lease expires. Maybe this is a date still, let's say September 2/12, right? Something like that, right? Let's add those here too. So next one would be what? Guitar learning. So that would be, you can have the same keys here because that's part of the different object. You have the same properties. These are called the attributes, right? To have a comma, of course. The last one, if you notice, there's no comma. Okay, no comma on the last one. Same thing here. And then this is the guitar learning book. Okay, now here let's put comma again. The last one will not have a comma. And then if you see here, I guess I can just remove that out. That's just empty one. So this is going to close that one, right? So this is the array here. So if you see here, I have a student ID. This is the JSON object here, right? And then it starts with the JSON array. So books, it has a multiple informations of the books. So this guy rented multiple books, right? So that's here, has to start another one. Okay, and that has to close. Okay, that's closing. I have to start one more, another here. Okay, so if you see here, there are 3 sets of the books. So these are another JSON object inside the JSON array. Array starts here, that ends here, but that array is like, if you see earlier was one was the single lines, right? If you see back into your JSON file, that's how it was. Now if you want to just copy paste this, you're going to see a totally different format, right? Let's remove some of these spaces here, and rest will let it format for you. Oh, here, every JSON object, again, just like your array was, it will need the comma to separate them, right? So here, if you go, okay, if you go here, validate JSON, and of course here it will say valid JSON. Now if you want to see this back into your place, this is how it would look. It is formatted. You see the comma with every single ones. So you may see all different sets of the data. I mean all different formats or the informations set into this JSON format, but nothing but the key and a value. So now if you want to see, the value is the array, value can be array, but the key has to be there, right? So that's a key value, key value. If you do not enter the codes here, that's fine too, because that will then consider as number, integer. So it's very simple, there's no complex thing, so many things that you need to remember. If you continue to practice, it's just hour worth of work, but then it will make yourself expert. Okay, I hope this this video has been very helpful for you to understand the basics of the JSON, how it works. I'm going to work on the next video where we'll be coding into this piece and showing you how we can manipulate the data with the JSON format. And this series is this JSON, this video today is the start point where I would be continuing to add more videos how you would be working with the API testing using REST assured libraries, and how you can set up the framework. So there's so much to go from here, and I hope this series of the video would be really helpful for you to know about the API testing automation. Thank you very much for watching my video, and please continue to support my channel and subscribe to my channel, and continue watching. Looking forward to see you in the next video. Thank you very much.